22 of the Corporation Code and the SEC regulations, this means that it can no longer operate except for purposes of winding up its affairs. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And the corporation is given 3 years to wind up its affairs. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And therefore, it cannot continue in its regular business during the 3-year period.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, that corporation cannot enter into a new business or perform acts in furtherance of the business during the period winding up. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And the affairs of the corporation should be limited to those which would have a bearing to its liquidation. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, in the case of Basa Enterprises, when you revoked the certificate on May 26, 2003, it only meant that from May 26, 2003, for 3 years thereafter, it can no longer perform its regular business but should only perform acts pursuant to a liquidation. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, you also mentioned that after the Guidote Basa or Basa Guidote Enterprises received this notice of revocation, there is nothing on the record which would show that they asked for a revival of this corporation.
Yes, Your Honor.
So insofar as the records are concerned, this corporation has ceased to operate because 3 years have lapsed since the time of revocation.
Yes, Your Honor.
And that is a statement based on the SEC Reorganization Act, which authorizes you, the SEC, to revoke the certificate of registration for failure to file the required reports as required by the SEC.
Yes, Your Honor.
That is all, Your Honor.
Thank you. The gentleman from Pampanga.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you very much. Just a clarification to the prosecution panel. Yesterday, you were trying to prove, or you were proving, with respect to the statement of asset and liabilities, certain properties that were excluded. That is your argument, hindi ba? Yes, in the SALN. Therefore, for lack of a better term, merong mga unexplained exclusions. In this case, there is an inclusion, meaning merong loan. May dineklara. Yung kahapon, may mga hindi dineklara. Ngayon, sinasabi nyo, may mga dineklara. Subalit, yung mga dineklara, questionable. And therefore, it goes again to the issue of the truthfulness of your SALN.
That is correct, Your Honor.
So kung kahapon, unexplained exclusions, for lack of a better term, ngayon, ang nais nyong patunayan, unexplained inclusions.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yun lang po. Salamat po.
Thank you. The gentleman from Aurora has 2 minutes.
Maraming salamat po, Pangulo. Palagay po, this all much ado over nothing sapagkat number one wala naman disagreement ang prosecution and defense on the authenticity of this document. So it's up to us to draw the proper legal conclusion. So we don't have to debate the conclusion because it's up to us. Ngayon, ang confusion dito arose from the fact that our witness made cancellation of the license synonymous with dissolution of the corporation. Mr. President, you and I took corporation law, and that's our specialty. It's the distinction between revocation of license to operate or registration is entirely separate and distinct from dissolution of the corporation. Revocation of the license to operate means cancellation of the registration, but that doesn't automatically result to the extinction of the corporation. Diba? As Senator Delon explained, there's still a 3-year winding up period Why? For a very practical reason. If sinabi mo, nirevoke ko yung lisensya mo, patay ka na, ay ano nangyari sa mga sweldo ng mga empleyado? Ano nangyari sa mga pautang mo sa suppliers, sa creditors? So, revocation of registration simply means you cannot do business as usual. Your avowed purpose, corporate purpose, you cannot pursue that anymore. But can you pay out money? Well, as Alan said, you can still pay out money because that may be part of the distribution of investment, or they may have already satisfied all creditors and they want to distribute their initial investment. So I think that full confusion arose from the confusion of cancellation and dissolution, Mr. President. That's why it's important that our witness provide us a legal memo, because this is, to me, well, I've not been in practice for almost 30 years, Mr. President, but I was taught a basic principle in corporate law that cancellation of the registration is entirely distinct and separate from dissolution of a corporation. Dissolution is extinguishing the life and existence of that corporation. That means talagang wala na, wala ka na magagawa. Salamat po. Time ko na ako.
Counsel for the prosecution, proceed. The gentleman from Makati in Bicol, Senator Arroyo, my senior equals.
Thank you, Mr.
equals
President.
senior
This is
senator.
not a question. You know, I once sat at the table of the prosecutors. If you are not sure of your evidence, please do not present it. That is all. Like this portion, this evidence, you submitted exhibit quintuple whatever, Q. Q? Huh? Quintuple D. It says there that they could still petition what's this? Yes, the decision of the revocation up to sometime in 2010. Now, why did you mark it? In other words, they could still. So, I don't really want to ask you anything because you have control of that. But, Mr. President, could you, in the legal memorandum, could you please include for the memorandum that will be filed by the witness, that if there's a revocation, what happens to the creditors? What happens to the employees? What happens to the suppliers? I mean,
What happened to the titles of, in the name of the corporation, the lands, shares of stock, and whatever property it owns?
and whether
What happened to the books of accounts?
and whether the rules of co-ownership under the Civil Code will now be applied, assuming that it is effectively revoked, because that is obviously a family corporation, as Alan said. So, I mean, that's about all that I would like to point out. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
The lady senator from Taguig.
Mr. President, just a few follow-up questions. May we ask the witness if he knows, or if he does not know, then can he include in the memorandum, the legal memorandum, the basis for the setting of the deadline to file petition? Is that based on the corporation code? Because as Senator Ping Lacson pointed out, if it has already been revoked, then what is this extra life that is being given?
It is not based on the corporation code.
Okay. So it is just a decision that the SEC made to give life again to a dead corporation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And then what I would also like to be included in your legal memorandum, is it not possible that in fact a corporation that has been, whose certification has been revoked, they continue to conduct business, even if they are not allowed? In other words, are there not, because I was a practicing lawyer at some point, and I had so many clients who did not file their GIS, who received memorandum circulars from the SEC telling them that they will be revoked. But meanwhile, all this time, they're doing business. So in other words po, hindi man sila kilalanin ng SEC na buhay sila. Buhay sila. Sila ho'y may mga ginagawa. And that brings me to my question to the prosecution. Is it your intention to prove that money, in fact, exchange of money did not take place? Because it appears that there are many of us who feel that this whole discussion is irrelevant because even if the legal existence, even if the corporation has no legal existence, it appears that circulars are being sent to them, and there is a window for them to do something. So do you intend to prove, because then we can continue, but if you will just prove that this corporation does not exist, then to many of us, it seems like a futile exercise.
Yes, Your Honor, Your Honors. What we're trying to prove is that precisely this alleged cash advance is fictitious for so many reasons, and this is the reason why we marked in evidence. And the names of the stockholders were read into the records as of the time of the last filing of the GIS in July 16 of 1990, where the name Cristina Corona or even Renato Corona does not appear. So how can there be advances to somebody who's not even a shareholder in the corporation?
Well,
so,
anyway,
these are things that we're trying to prove, Your Honor, and we're just trying to lay the predicate, Your Honor, because this is just one of the witnesses that will prove many other aspects of the fictitious character of this alleged cash advance, Your Honor.
all right. But before I forget, in your memorandum, Mr. Witness, please indicate whether a corporation whose registration was dissolved can sue or be sued. Because that is a very important element, whether the corporation is really effective, is dissolved. Because to sue or to be sued means an assertion of rights. Okay? Take note of that.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, proceed, Counsel.
I think we're through with the witness, Your Honor. We have already established all of these records that are in place in the Securities and Exchange Commission, and we will introduce other evidence on this point at the proper time, Your Honor.
What's the pleasure of the defense counsel?
We will.
Mr. President,
The majority floor leader.
yes, Mr. President, may we move to suspend for 15 minutes, and may we call on the other members of the court to join the Senate President in the Senator's Lounge for a short caucus to take up a small detail in the proceedings of the impeachment court before the cross-examination of the defense, Mr. President. I so move.
Trial suspended.
At sinuspindi po ng 15 minuto ang paglilitis para bigyan daan ang pagmimiting o caucus nitong mga senador tungkol daw ayon kay Senador Tito Soto sa procedural matter dito sa trial.
Nakita natin na